Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of the RocknRoll Beer Guy Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Wendigo Tea Company. If you go to wendigotea.com, you can see a selection of all their teas, including their Siren Throat Health Herbal Tea. I'm pretty stoked to try it out myself. It's 100% organic and caffeine-free, and it's a nice mixture of medicinal herbs and ginger that's supposed to help coat your throat. For anybody that's a singer or a podcaster, I think this would be perfect for you. Thanks again to Wendigo Tea for sponsoring the podcast. Go to wendigotea.com and check out all their selections there. Tell them I sent you. In this episode, I talked to Michael Gallagher of the band Mustard Gas and Roses. He was also the guitarist for ISIS, the band. We talk about how Mustard Gas and Roses became a thing, his time in the band ISIS. We talk a little bit about beer and a slew of other topics. It was great talking to him, and I hope you enjoy. Cheers.
Yeah, what's up, brother?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Doing all right. Enjoying my Saturday.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good news.
Yeah, you know, it's when you get to the point where enjoying your Saturday means cleaning your apartment and, like, organizing your shit. Yeah.
The world is a sad and beautiful place.
Yeah, man. I mean, I spend so much time during the week just working and doing things that it's like, oh, cool. I don't have much to do today. I'll do a podcast and I'll clean up the apartment. And that's so enjoyable.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah, man. Welcome, everyone, to the RocknRoll Beer Guy Podcast. I'm here with Michael Gallagher of the band Mustard Gas and Roses, also formerly of the band ISIS.
Hello.
Tell me a little bit about Mustard Gas and Roses, man. MGR.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'll start from the beginning if that's all right.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, started out as kind of just an ambient kind of little side project. I think I put up the first record around 2005, and it was just kind of a bunch of oddities and orphans that I had left over that really didn't fit in the ISIS world. So I kind of bought some recording gear and just started kind of learning how to use it. Just like it was an old like 16-track digital thing, like from basically the early 2000s, and nice. My way of learning it was to kind of throw together these little vignettes and kind of build upon it and add things and turn them into kind of more realized songs. And as I did it, I found myself pretty happy with the direction of the music. So I kind of turned it into a thing, just again, a side thing, just me doing, guitar loops and effects and, whatever else was kind of blowing my hair back. And then as time went on, it just became more of a regular thing for me to, just kind of fill in some of my downtime with ISIS with that. And then, of course, ISIS broke up in 2010, and that left a little bit of a void in my life, musically, that is. And I kind of took a break for a few years, and a friend of mine, Josh Graham, from the band Storm of Light and Red Sparrows, asked me to open as a 3.5-week tour of Europe that Storm of Light was doing. So I said yes, but I didn't want to do it by myself. I had played plenty of shows by myself in the past, but I kind of wanted the camaraderie and feeding off other people. So I asked him if I could steal 3 of the guys in his band and kind of just write some songs for the tour and, come out a little bit early and practice with them and head off to Europe and have at it and see how it goes. And it ended up being really fun. I had, one of the better times on tour that I've had in a long time. And that's, so whatever, I thought I would try to incorporate it back home here in Los Angeles. So I found some good friends that I've known for a long time and asked them to play with me. And we wrote a record and put it out, I guess, a year ago or something now.
Yeah, it's been about a year.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Yeah, I've seen you guys open up for some cool shows, and I see your name more and more since the first time I saw you guys, and it's awesome.
Yeah. It went from kind of, it's very much a part-time thing. Everyone has real life responsibilities, that we need to attend to, but I'm trying to make a little more of an effort to go out on tour. And we have a tour of the East and the West Coast for basically the entire month of September. So that'll be a good time.
Who are you going out with?
The East Coast is with a band called Dustmoth, and that'll be from Boston to Georgia. And then right after that, we go out with Unius and Black Mare, and it goes from Arizona through Southern California, and then like up to the Northwest and then back down. So.
Okay. Is there like a coherent theme for what you're doing in terms of the music? I mean, Mustard Gas and Roses makes me think of, war and, trying to make peace and not war. That's the vibe I get from just the name alone. I think of that. And, is that kind of what you're going for? Is there some kind of vibe you're going for with the music?
That changes depending on what's kind of forefront in my reality. There's no like doctrine that I'm like sticking to or whatever. I'm very much kind of just letting life and the music take me where it wants to go. It's just trying to be open to the experience and seeing where I land with it. So kind of yes and kind of no, which I know is a non-answer essentially, but it's I'm trying to incorporate as much as life as I see it into the music. I'm trying to basically give everything I am and have into it. So, you speak to like, some of the tragedies such as war and some of the beauties such as love. Like I want all that in there. I want people to have a beautiful and fulfilling experience when they listen to the music. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. It's, that's up to the person's thoughts on what they're hearing. But I guess if I were to call out a goal, I would like to share a full and beautiful experience with someone.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I got the name right away. That's the vibe that I mentioned. I see war and I see the rose as kind of, love and peace and all that. And it's all encompassing. And, I've had a couple friends who are like, that's a weird name. I'm like, just think about it for a second, though.
It is. It does not roll off the tongue. Certainly it's an awkward name. I will be the first one to admit it. But the reason I'm a really big Kurt Vonnegut fan. And I kind of lifted it from the pages of Slaughterhouse-Five. And that is he's one of my favorite writers, and that's one of my favorite books of his. And he describes it, he uses that phrase twice in that book. And one is referring to like, war and just horror, essentially. And the other one is when he's years out of being in World War II, home alone, drunk late at night, calling operators to try to get ex-girlfriends on the phone. And, the operators, and this is a paraphrase quote, don't seem to mind my mustard gas and Rose's breath. So it's like kind of a sad and beautiful little experience he's having by himself late at night.
Nice. It's funny. I have difficulty retaining information that I pick up off of books. That's something that I've grown up to know that I love reading. I have tons of books, and I like reading obscure books too. Like one of my favorite dudes is Mark Z. Danielewski, and he writes some very obscure, like poetic stuff. But when it comes to keeping it retained, like I've read that book, but I don't remember that. You know what I mean?
Well, but it didn't. I'm sure there was something else in there that you do that was maybe at least interesting, if not profound to you, though. You know what I mean? Like that just happened to be profound to me.
Right, that spoke to you, yeah.
And I'm sure your takeaway could have been something else, and I'm like, I don't remember that. That didn't happen, So
it's funny how that works, man. It is how different art affects people differently. What are some of your influences in terms of creating art? I know musical influences. That's kind of a vague question, but like, where do you draw inspiration from to create your art?
Everywhere really. Stuff just kind of comes to you whenever. I do a fair amount of hiking, and things will come to me then. If I'm just on the trail, if I'm like, currently I'm new to singing in a band and writing lyrics. I've always been pretty good with words, but sharing it with people is a different thing than just writing stuff at home and being pretty good at it. So often when I'm hiking, words are more likely to come to me, and I can kind of refine what I'm doing because it's a very meditative kind of thing, and so you're just kind of mulling over some thoughts. So, work is the same way, really. I'm a carpenter, so that can also be fairly meditative. So it's you kind of if you're open to giving yourself to an experience, it's likely to give you something back to kind of take with you. and mold and turn into something creative, essentially, or an outcome of something creative, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to ask you what you're doing, what your day job is, or what you're doing as a career outside of music. Carpentry's cool. I mean,
swinging a hammer.
I've always had an interest in that. I took woodshop in high school, and it was always fun to build stuff. Have you ever built like your own cabs or anything like that?
No, I haven't. Like Andy from Revamp, we had talked about kind of doing something like that, and it never really came to fruition. I currently my house is small, and I'm not set up for it, so I would need the only complication would be like to get a shop to do all that in. I mean, I certainly could do it, but I just never really explored it and have never taken the time to try to like rent the space to make that happen or whatever. But no, usually with music gear, I just like find something I like and I buy it. So it's just a lot easier that way than I have enough kind of pulling my mind hither and thither that I don't really want to get too into like being jack of all trades.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. You bring up jack of all trades. That's a big recurring theme in my life. Like I've even I wrote a script for a cartoon called Jack of All Trades that I submitted to Adult Swim.
It's like it's basically a story about you. It sounds like.
Yeah, well, kind of. I mean, obviously exaggerated, but yeah. I mean, I've grown up doing so many different things, different industries, just kind of dipping my toes in the water just to find a thing that I want to do. Ultimately, I ended up doing a lot more music and beer stuff, but But I have done a lot. Like go back in history, it's like, oh yeah, I used to work at a fish company. Like I worked at Gap for a brief moment in time. Like just weird stuff like that.
Yeah, as did I. I worked at Gap also.
Oh, nice. Did you have to do the laps every morning when they opened the store? Lap around the store?
I did. I was in the stock room. I kind of asked to be not with the public because that's not really where I shine. So,
yeah, dude, it was so weird. I had a mohawk at the time, so like people in Gap were looking at me all weird, like, "What are you doing here?"
I'm here to help, man.
Yeah.
Here to help.
Yeah, they would make us do these laps every morning. Before the doors would open to the public, we would have to go around the store and hit certain spots that are like vulnerable security spots.
Right.
And yeah, it was ridiculous. Anyway, going back, now that you said you mentioned that you're writing vocals, how does it work for you? Because I used to sing in a band, or I still sing in a band, but we're on a break. But
yeah, okay.
When you write your vocals, your lyrics, does it come melodic first? Like, are you thinking about just like da da da, and then you fit words into it, or are you writing melodies around certain words you want to say?
Both, honestly, both. So like, again, I'm not seasoned. I'm no pro. I have there's only like a couple years experience thus far, but so far it has gone, I've done one thing where I wrote the vocal line and cadence first and then wrote the riff around it. And that's the only time that's ever happened. Generally speaking, it's like idea of like lyrical content, just like, kind of a vibe, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And then a riff would come, and then I would just write some words down and just keep, molding and massaging them until I liked them around the riff, or change the riff to fit them or whatever. Like then it just becomes like it's kind of a give and take. It's like who's louder, who's yelling at me louder, essentially.
Okay, yeah. For me, it was always the other way. It would always be melody first. Like the guitar riff will come out, and then I'll think of a vocal pattern that I'd want melodically, and then I'd write words based on how that whole thing made me feel. Like the riff and everything combined. Like sometimes it's depressing, or sometimes it's angry, or And so if it's angry, I'm going to write about violence and rage or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you're like that's fucking wonderful. You're giving yourself to the whatever the thing is, So
yeah, very cool. So you didn't do any kind of assisting or the vocals for ISIS?
No, I was always afraid, and I still am, honestly. I'm like still, I struggle with some things still with it, but. No, I didn't, because I was like, basically, I didn't think that my voice was suitable to be heard singing. And I'm still not really sure that that's the case, but I know I listen to a lot of country music too, and I'm like, these guys can do it, man. It's like, they can almost make me cry, and they're just talking. So if they can do that, then I can sneak in some stuff. So that was kind of like one of my inspirations. And really what happened was on the record Becoming, the last song that I had written for it was the song Becoming. And it just was like that first riff in the song. And I'm like, I was just playing on the couch and kind of, just messing around with it a little bit, seeing where it was going. And I'm like, I think some lyrics would be really good on this. And then I just kind of worked around that. And, it was a challenge because it was my first swing at singing. So I picked all the wrong. That song is very hard for me to do live because I didn't know how to write for myself. I wrote like what I thought was what I thought it should be, not what I thought I should do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Anyway, I've gotten better at writing in my range since then. So that's a gift.
Yeah, for sure. I when I was doing that as well, it was I always try to keep it in my range, but I would have one part that I would throw in there just to challenge myself. Just to see like I got to be able to hit that note or hold that note for such amount of time or something like that, while also playing keyboard or something. Trying to
sweating
multitask
and getting lights blasted on you and stressed out or whatever the thing is. So it's challenging.
Yeah. Keep your beer from spilling. Man. Tell me a little bit about Cast Iron Hike. I know that was a previous band too, right?
Yeah, man. Cast Iron Hike was, I don't remember, somewhere around 94 to 97 or something like that. I'm not quite sure. Let's see. We put out 2 EPs. A split 7-inch and a full length, and toured the East Coast a few times, or a few times, I think. And it was good. I mean, it was a really good learning experience. We were mid-20s, dumb as all get out. I mean, we're just like kids. I know like that's not the youngest, but like I look back on that age, Mike, and I'm like, you were absolutely a kid. So. But we did pretty well. We did well locally in the Northeast. We did, people seemed to like to come to see us and had a good time. And it was a fun and good thing to do. And I guess more importantly, or as importantly, it got me in the door with ISIS because of that. Like Turner approached me. He was a fan of Cast Iron Hike, and we were all living in Boston when in like '98 when they needed a guitarist. So. That was kind of one of the reasons that they started talking about me and then went on to talk to me about it. So,
very cool. I didn't get a chance to check out any of the music, but what kind of genre was it? People say all the adjectives to me are kind of silly, but people call it post-hardcore. If I were to make an easy reference, I would say it sounded similar to Quicksand. Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I like
it was good for the time, for sure. Yeah.
I'll check it out for sure. Is there music online for that? Like Bandcamp or something like that?
I think so. I don't really know. I'm sure there's YouTube things on the record for sure.
That's funny you mentioned the post-hardcore. Like, I don't understand what that means. The post-metal, post-rock. Like, I was talking to Dallas.
Metal gaze.
Yeah, I was talking to Dallas from Pelican, and he was like, "Yeah, we're post-rock," and I just didn't bring it up. Like, what is that? What does that mean?
I don't know. It's just I don't know. If people ask me what kind of music, I'm like, it's loud rock. That's all it is. It's goddamn loud rock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just we're sifting sand for no reason here. You know what I mean? Who cares?
Yeah, if you're not into loud rock at all of any kind, then don't even bother. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I like it. Then I say loud rock that hopefully is beautiful. That's it. Whatever. Done.
Yeah. I mean, metalheads can get very nerdy. Like I don't know. I know the difference between death metal and black metal, but honestly, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know Metallica's thrash, and so I guess I like thrash metal. So
right. Yeah. I haven't been able to figure out what I like. It's I love thrash a lot. I love punk a lot. I love fast and loud.
Yeah.
But then I also do like sludgy and heavy and like kind of what you guys are doing with ISIS and kind of droney stoner stuff is what they. I don't know if all of you guys were or any of you guys smoked but that's definitely the vibe I get from listening to that band. It's like I'm gonna smoke a joint and mellow and just float around in this music,
Yeah, well, you're definitely, again, like, not to harp on the word meditative, but you're like, the goal was to have people sit with it and just fucking have some time with it and give themselves and let it give themselves to it essentially. Which of course that's going to be like equated to like smoking weed or whatever, which by the way, like in the early days of Isis, we all smoked crops of weed basically, except for Aaron, the drummer. But when I started not remembering full tours, I'm like, I don't think I need that much weed anymore, or any really for that matter. So
time to cut it out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and like it's great, and weed's awesome, but it wasn't working for me at that time. So
yeah, it's really difficult when you're creating music and you're practicing and trying to, and once you get to a certain point in your career where you've got now 3 albums or 4 albums in your catalog, where you now have to dig deep for lyrics or dig deep for parts and riffs and notes, and if you're smoking, like, you'll easily lose it.
Yeah.
It happened to me once where I wasn't like a chronic smoker or anything like that, and pun intended, I guess, but
nice.
But yeah, like the guys brought something really heavy duty one day, and I tried it out, and we're practicing, and I just started singing a completely different song. And the guys are like, dude, what are you doing? That's not the song. And then I'm like, no, yeah, it is. And we started arguing about it. And then I realized, oh my God, no, it's me being an idiot. It's all gone.
Yeah. I'm just gone right now. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's rough, dude. I don't regret all the stuff that we did when we were younger, but it does wear, it's wearing on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Going back to Isis a little bit, I mean, I was going to ask you how you met the guys, but you mentioned, Cast Iron Hike, and, when you guys, I'm sure you've been asked this before too, but you guys are highly regarded amongst like the underground, amongst a lot of musicians. Like they cite you guys as main influences or inspirations for the style of music. Was that really the goal at the time? Like, did you guys even think about that?
Oh no, that was never. I mean, when it started happening, it was completely a blessing and an honor. But no, it's just write music you want to hear. That was it. Like our influence were like Melvin, Swans, Godflesh, like Let's Go. We love those guys. What can we do? Neurosis too, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just wanted to kind of just get music that we wanted to hear. Not to harp on that, but yeah, that was really it. That was the main goal. And I mean, mission accomplished mostly for me. I enjoyed everything we did. So
yeah, no, it's great music, man. Did you guys? I've never had a chance to talk to Aaron. I've talked to him before, but I've never brought this up, and I just wanted to ask you and see how much shit did you guys get in regards to the band name once shit started getting crazy over there in the Islamic State.
I don't know. I mean, it's like I know people were like sending. There was a couple of email exchanges about that years ago. Mm-hmm. Within the band, that is. And I know people were like sending weird messages on Facebook and all that, but it's just like, how dumb you got to be, man. It doesn't really like. It's a bummer, sure, but I can't really give that much weight because it's a band. Yeah. And it was an Egyptian goddess prior to any of us. So, I don't know what to say. It's like, it's people are dumb and can't see their way into basically anything. So yeah, they get stuck on shit. I don't really know what more there is than that,
Yeah, my concern was with you guys personally, just, any kind of like life-threatening situations, because people are very dumb.
Oh, no. I mean, maybe someone has said something or what. I don't know anything about that, though. No, it's all been, in terms of that, it's all been clean.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple more notes about ISIS. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about it. I'm sure you've given countless interviews. But yeah, in terms of the shifts in the sound that you guys had, once kind of around the time you joined, you guys maintained with Celestial, but then there was a big change with Oceanic. Mm-hmm. What was kind of the mindset there with the shift?
Well, let's see. With Celestial, I would say it was mostly Turner's doing. Mm-hmm. He kind of came up with most of the stuff in Celestial, and we kind of worked around that. And it's really like I just kind of started out as him and Jeff's vision. So in the earlier days, especially, it was mostly them kind of pointing the direction. And then with Oceanic, I think we had been playing together for, I guess, like 4 years at that point. So there was more trust and love of each other's playing. So And I think that kind of shows because that's where everyone started to kind of spread their wings a little more and say, I would like to have my voice heard in this band. And then, but there was more importantly, there was room for people, to be heard. So, and I think that's kind of how that change started. It may, as far as the songwriting process, it may have been intentional, but I'm not entirely sure. But I can say that that's how everybody became a little more confident and a little more heard in the band.
For sure. What are some of your favorite bands? I know you mentioned Melvins and Swans as kind of being a major influence or stuff that you liked, but just what are some of your favorite bands and or records that you hold in high regard?
Spiritualize is up there. Towns Van Zandt is up there. Johnny Cash.
Nice.
AC/DC. Mark Lanigan.
Are you a big record collector?
No, I am a record collector, but I'm not a big one though. Okay. If I really like something, I'll absolutely buy the record. But yeah, I don't have a huge collection. I probably have 700 records or something like that. So probably like 600 or something like that. So not tons.
Okay. Yeah. I'm bringing that up because I wanted to ask your thoughts on this whole, how Spotify works and how bands get paid out and the differences between that and having an actual record,
Well, I mean, it's always better. I think for me, it's always better to kind of look at it and have something in your hand. It's just a more romantic experience, and you can kind of all the old adages of sitting down and giving yourself to it and opening the gatefold and looking at it. That's all true and romantic and nice. But as far as Spotify goes, I don't know, man. I never see any money for it. I know we're on there and I know we get played. So it seems a little sad, but whatever. That's the climate. And I suppose if I were to get angry about it, it would it would be the same thing as getting angry at the ocean for being wet.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to some of the dudes at Intranet, and they're just hey, man, we had 10,000 plays last month, and we got a check for $4 or something. You know what I mean? It's insane. But at the same time, I think, Spotify is bringing music to a lot of people that wouldn't normally hear it.
Exactly. I mean, all of it, it's and that is absolutely a gift. And, ideally, people hear it that way and then go see you live and support you that way. So, yeah. Yeah,
I appreciate that they do that too. They kind of if someone's on tour and you're listening to them, it'll tell you that stuff, and that's cool. My only concern with stuff like that is record labels starting to take advantage of that. The only way you'll listen to Mustard Gas and Roses is if your label pays to be on the top playlist of the week or the Discover playlist or something like that. That's where it gets corrupt, and I hope that's not what's going. I mean, I'm sure it's already going on, but. I'm sure there's some kind of business.
Most likely, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I guess it's the pay to play thing or something like that. So
yeah, if your label pays for you to be, you'll be the first one to come up on the quote shuffle.
Yeah,
that's crazy, man. I mean, do you were around when there were labels, when it was a thing? Do you think it's better having a label like that back in the day, or is it better now where you're more independent and you can do your own thing?
Well, I think it depends on who you talk to. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to answer that exactly, if I'm being honest. For me, I certainly, if I'm being honest, I made more money when media was physical. Mm-hmm. But then there's part of me that's goddamn, it's such a waste of plastic and shipping and this and whatever. So it's it's kind of a double-edged thing. I don't know. So, but the money was interesting, but I don't know. I don't know how to answer that exactly. I don't really know. I think in 10 years' time we'll really be able to kind of look back on it and make a more clear assertion. But I know some people are YouTube phenomenons or whatever, and they are basically famous because of that exact thing, because of streaming media or whatever, and good for them. That's great.
Yeah.
Ideally, you're not a flash in the pan, and you have some artistic integrity that you can kind of live with. But
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of these people that are YouTube stars, friends of mine will complain. Even myself, I'll get mad sometimes when I see like a dude getting millions of views and actually getting money from just playing video games on YouTube,
Right.
and it pisses me off, and obviously I'm angry because I'm jealous. Like,
Sure.
How are you getting money from playing video games? I play video games. Nobody pays me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. Like, you got to give them props for actually doing it and finding their way. They found a way to connect with a huge audience that's making it work for them.
Yeah, totally.
Wanted to ask you about beer. I know you're not a huge craft beer dude, but
yeah, I do like beer though.
You do like beer?
I do.
What are some of your favorites?
I mean, when I go to the store, I usually just get Fat Tire. I enjoy that. I really like Pacifico a lot, which I know is kind of quite different, but it's very refreshing in this hot Southern California climate.
Oh yeah.
And my local bar has a really good whiskey Budweiser special, so I really enjoy my Budweisers when I go there.
Oh man,
yeah.
Okay.
But generally, I like if you were to say what my favorite ask me what my favorite type of beer is, it's kind of like brown or red ales usually is what gets me most excited.
Okay, and is there a reason you just don't have the time to dedicate to it, or why haven't you explored more the craft beer world? You seem like the type of person that would.
Well, I know, yeah. I suppose that's true. I don't know. I mean, there's a craft beer place near my house, and it's basically like a beer store essentially. They have there's a small bar there. You can actually go there and sit down, buy anything off the shelf, and sit down and drink it, and it's quite lovely. And I have tried a lot of beers there, but I don't know. I never get that excited about it. So I do love it, but it's not like this. Oh, this is the one beer that's whatever. I'm not particular enough to really get into the notes and all that stuff. I have some friends that really love talking about that, and it's interesting to hear. But I never really give it quite that much time for whatever reason.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot going on in your life, musically, and I'm sure otherwise, everybody does.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I just chose that to be the career, so now, that's whenever I go somewhere, I have to go find the craziest beer you got, or something interesting or local, and then I always get into arguments with people about Budweiser, so.
So you are an active, you actively dislike it, I imagine, yes.
Well, my issue is mostly the politics of it, they're...
Oh, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Yeah, I've been working with, and I will continue to work with independent brewers all the time. It's the way I've grown up. Just independent business has always been more interesting to me, even whatever it may be. Small independent comic book shops or small independent record stores, or something like that. To me, is more intriguing than giant corporation. Trying to take over the world. And I feel like that's what Budweiser is leaning towards. They're actively putting money down to shut down smaller breweries in a very sneaky way via bars. So that kind of behavior is what pisses me off. The beer, whatever, people enjoy the beer. I drank plenty of Budweiser when I was young.
Sure.
People like the flavor. That's up to them. I'm not going to judge you on that. But it's. The issue with me comes with that, the politics and stuff, Yeah,
it's sticky, man. It's I know. It's sticky, and it's also hard to know when to, I fully support your sentiment and will never disagree with it. And it's also hard to know, it's I fill my car up with gas at least once a week.
Exactly.
It's and that's some shit that I have a hard time being right with for basically the same reasons. So it's all not to sound like a crazy person with a tinfoil hat, but it's a tough setup we have to live in a way that you can truly hold your head up. I think the best you can do is live in this world as cleanly as you can.
For sure, I agree. It is difficult. You want to get all gung ho and anti-establishment, but you have a cell phone. And you have a computer, and I've had a hard time taking people seriously when it comes to that. When the whole craze happened, the anonymous craze, where people were camping out in front of government buildings, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go off the grid," but you're posting about it on Facebook.
I know, yeah, it's lots of irony, and honestly, good for them for doing something. I've been to plenty of political marches since that noodlehead took office, and it's I feel really good every time I go, but it's also this is all a vague start. You know what I mean? Like, and that's all it is. And I'm not trying to sound negative or shitty or whatever, but like, it's hard to live your life the way you're meant to, the way society is set up, at least, and still, like, actively fight the system, I suppose.
Yeah, and it definitely it's something that's affecting a lot of people with their mental health as well, man. I mean, it's hard to handle. It's a hard pill to swallow when you look on the news and you see the crazy shit that's going on at the White House, and oh my God, he said this, he did what, and it's weighing on people. It's weighing on me personally. Like I have a hard time. I care, obviously. I care about existing and my fellow humans existing with me, but at the same time, like what am I supposed to do? What can I do outside of like what protesting and stuff? It's been going on forever. It's a never-ending cycle. Back in the 70s, everybody was protesting, but all those people were on acid. And it's a never. It's funny. I don't know if you watched Game of Thrones at all.
I'm a couple of seasons behind, but I've seen a good chunk of it. Yeah.
Well, the newest episode, one of the guys had a line in there that really struck me, and it was like, one of the kids was freaking out. Oh my God, winter's coming, or the dead people are coming, and it's the older priest dude was just like, man, this is like the 7th or 8th winter that has come. Like, this is it every time. It comes and it goes, and we'll be here, and it's just going to keep going, and it's going to get shitty. It's going to get dark, and people are going to think it's the end of the world. But at the end of it, we'll survive and push forward. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at in a political climate.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree with that. It's more intense than it's ever been. At least that's what it feels like to me. But people have been saying those exact words in that exact order since people were saying words.
Exactly.
So, like, since before you and I can remember, and, thousands of years prior to that, people have been saying that exact thing. Well, now, like, things are different now. Now it's blah, blah, blah. Now it's more intense. Now things are worse. Mm-hmm. And that may be true, but, I don't know. Just, humans are very adaptable, either fortunately or unfortunately. I'm not sure which one. So
yeah, very adaptable. That's a good word to use. Like I was having a discussion yesterday with a buddy of mine, and it was just how if there were ever to be an advancement in technology to get us, like teleportation, for example, I think that's the one we were talking about. And he was of the same mind that I'm sure a lot of people are, where he's like, that'll never happen. And I'm more of that's going to happen, and it's going to happen in our lifetime, and it's going to be like the flip of a switch too. Like the humans we're just going to adapt to it and accept it. Yeah. Like if you look at our phones, like 20 years ago, you told somebody you had a computer that lets you look up every answer to every question you've ever had in the palm of your hand. Like, you're a crazy person. That'll never happen.
Yeah. Yep.
And now we accept it. We accept that we have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and like, oh yeah, it's just technology that we have that lets you invisibly, share information through the air.
Yeah, totally.
It's crazy. So that's only, it's just a matter of wording, I guess. We would have to word it properly for people to say, oh, okay, we can teleport. That's a thing.
Yeah, totally.
Do you look into, have you looked into at all as to what's going on with that, and also just quantum physics type research where we're living in a computer program basically?
Yeah, I mean, I've kicked that around a little bit, but it's to me, it's the way I see things is, and I might fumble with some of this, so pardon me, but it's a little more philosophical than that. Or spiritual, really, which basically is the same thing with different words put on it. But basically, if you look at like Plato, who talks about how everything is just, this reality we have is just kind of a vague recollection of a truer thing, which is probably the case. Mm-hmm. We are kind of living in somewhat of an illusion. Not that that's a bad or a good thing, but I feel that it just is. So, yeah. And like through meditation or whatever, I guess you can get kind of closer to the core of it, and maybe be a little more comfortable with your surroundings. So,
do you meditate?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do it a lot more often. I just haven't had much time lately, but it is super important.
It's a come and go thing, unfortunately, which is a pain in the ass.
Yeah. I think it's super important. I think it's something that should be taught in schools, man. Like,
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I wholly agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think mental health now is an issue. More and more is becoming more of a problem, and we keep losing people to depression. And recently the dude from Linkin Park, Chester, Chris Cornell shortly before that, stuff. Those are just big names that we are all familiar with. But there's people all around the world that are doing that are going through that.
Yeah.
That we don't know who they are. And it really does come to that, mental health. Like, we need to take care of our minds, and one of the best ways I've experienced is meditation. Like, that's something that should be an everyday part of our lives. It's the only chance your brain gets to rest. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, even when you're asleep, your mind is still rushing through things, and you're dreaming, and it's active and doing things,
Yeah, it's true.
Do you, when you do meditation, do you have a mantra? Do you play music? Some people like to just play music.
So rain sounds sometimes. I've always found that very, very calming. I remember when I was a kid, I used to go out to the family car, and when it was raining, just to sit and listen to the rain. So there's something in there for me, obviously. So I listen to that sometimes. Sometimes it's a guided meditation if I'm feeling like I have a particular direction that I want to go, and I'm struggling to find it on my own.
Okay.
So yeah, I will say I do struggle with just being like no sound or no guidance. I struggle to stay focused in that context. That's a hurdle I'm currently trying to leap. So
it's difficult, man. Your mind's so active that anytime you try, and even if stuff outside of your control, like you'll be sitting outside and then a plane passes by or a police siren or something, it really just throws you off. Yeah, that is really. That's why isolation tanks are such a big deal now. Or they're starting to become a big deal. Like we need to get out and hide inside a cocoon somewhere.
Look at altered states, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. I just saw a trailer actually right now. Comic-Con released a trailer for the new Steven Spielberg movie, Ready Player One. It's based on a book that I read. I don't know if you ever read it, but it's basically the world becomes virtual, kind of. Like, everybody's in a virtual world. Like, they go home and they put on their headset and they are now living life in in a video game, basically. And it's not like a completely new concept, but it's interesting the way he wrote it. Ernest Cline was the author, and he kind of touches on all the nostalgia from our youth, like Pac-Man and Dungeons and Dragons, and Back to the Future, all that stuff. And now Spielberg's making a movie on it, and it looks ridiculous. It's just I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we end up.
Yeah, I know. With the like WALL-E, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got VR systems at home now. I remember when I was a younger kid, like that was something you went to a place to do, and it was ugly and clunky. Now it's like super realistic, and you have it on at home in like a tiny headset,
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it worries me. I love technology and I love video games and all that stuff, but it's one of those things that scares me. Like, that's where we're going to end up. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah. Do you have any hobbies like that, like video games or, I don't know, card games or board games or wrestling? Any kind of hobby?
No. No. It sounds so fucking lame. But no, basically, I work, I play music, I visit friends, and try to have a good time. And that's basically it. I like to watch movies and TV shows sometimes. So yeah. Okay.
What are some of your favorite shows that are going on right now?
Well, a friend of mine just gave me an Amazon Fire Stick, so I've been watching Boardwalk Empire. I just started, so that seems pretty good.
Yeah, I tried watching that. I didn't get hooked immediately, but I have to give it another shot because I heard great things. Steve Buscemi, of course.
Yeah, it's
badass.
I mean, yes. Yeah, I mean, Steve Buscemi is a bit of an idol of mine too. One time, I was at the Tate Modern in London, the art museum, and I saw him. He and I were in the same room. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm kind of like, Steve Buscemi. I'm gonna go talk to Steve Buscemi. This is gonna be awesome. And then I kind of like played out how I thought it might go. Mm-hmm. And I think that this was years ago. So at that point, he had just done. He wrote and acted and I think directed the movie Trees Lounge, I believe it was.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, cool. I just saw that movie. I'm going to go, talk to him. So I kind of played out how it would go. And I was just like going over there and talking to him, telling him I really admired that movie. And it's really impressive that he both acted, directed, and wrote it and, just yammering on. And I'm like, I think you should just turn around and leave the room, Mike, because you're going to make a jackass out of yourself. So I gave him a nod and kept on going.
It's funny. Yeah, it definitely, you have to go with the vibe that you feel right before you make the approach. Because I end up confronting a lot of like people that I admire, musicians or actors or stuff like that. I go to parties and stuff, and it's always like, I'm going to go in, and then as soon as I start approaching, I sense a vibe of like, they don't want to talk to anyone. I'm backing away from this situation. But most of the time, I try and go in for the kill and like, hey, let's talk. Let's become friends, man.
Well, I mean, if you're just normal and not weird,
right?
Just talk to people like they're normal human beings. Generally, it may not go exactly as you want, but it's really very unlikely it will go poorly.
Sure.
Yeah. So
sometimes they can't control what you say. I mean, for the most part, I think I'm pretty good at approaching people, but I have nerded out once or twice in my life. Like, I think I nerded out with Adam Jones. First time I met him at a convention, and I just kind of, at first I'm like, oh shit, that's Adam Jones. I'm going to go talk to him. And then I had all this planned out in my mind, like, hey, are you into beer? I work at a brewery. But the first thing that came out of my mouth was like, dude, I'm a huge fan. I'm like, fuck. That's
yeah, right, I know.
That's the worst thing I could have said first.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. But it's sometimes you just can't control it. You nerd out, I try and hold it, but anyway. Well, cool, dude. I really appreciate you taking some time to talk to me. I'm stoked to see you guys again. I mean, I really enjoyed the times that I saw you. I saw you at the Roxy with Intronaut, I believe, right?
Oh yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, and then I saw you again at the Complex. I think it was also with Intronaut.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Awesome.
Good. That venue's gone now, dude. It
is. I know, it closed. Yeah, I think Eyes of Gemini played the last show there, which is unfortunate.
Damn.
But whatever. Dan will make. We're doing a show for Dan, who is the promoter of that. Was a promoter of that venue, in September. So he's still working, and he's got his hands in a lot of other clubs. So he's still making it work.
Nice. Yeah, Daniel Dismal, right?
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. You have any shows? You said you're doing a tour in September.
Yeah. So Los Angeles will be, I think it's the 22nd of September, I believe, at the Viper Room. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'll definitely come check that out.
Cool.
If anybody wants to find more information on the band, Mustard Gas and Roses, just I guess Google. There's a Bandcamp. What's your social media stuff?
I have Instagram and Facebook. So it's just Mustard Gas and Roses in both. So
Mustard Gas and Roses, one word. Yeah, check out the music, support it, buy records. Please buy records. That's they get no money from Spotify.
That is true.
Yeah. Anything else you want to throw in?
No, I mean, actually, we just finished mixing an EP, so that'll be coming out in the somewhat near future. There'll be about 4 songs, and I'm really happy with it. So it'll be fun. We did. Sure. Oh yeah, we did. What happened was we did a tour up to Seattle and back in April, and the tour, like the guys that play with me when I tour are generally different than the guys that you saw at the Intronaut shows.
Okay,
and that's because the 2 Los Angeles guys have a lot of other obligations that they can't peel away from. So I got 2 friends of mine from San Francisco to play guitar and drums on those shows, and we learned some new songs just to kind of like do like a team building thing, like have everyone be more a part of what they were playing rather than just playing other people's parts. And so we had a day off in Portland, and to kind of celebrate our time together, we recorded a couple songs just in a quick and dirty 2-hour studio session, and that will be part of the EP. It was pretty exciting.
Very cool. Very cool. I'll look forward to that as well, man. So yeah. Other than that, thank you so much, dude, for your time, and hopefully I'll see you at the show when you guys play here.
Awesome. Sounds great.
All right, brother. Thanks again. Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Eddie. Take care.